Hey YouTube, what's up? We're about to play some Apex Legends, testing out the new RTX 2060 i7 8700K build. The board for the build is an Asus Z390 Rogue e-gaming motherboard. We're also rocking a Samsung 970 Evo Plus NVMe drive, so the game is loaded all in there, and we also have 16 gigs of Corsair Vengance RGB Pro RAM, and the CPU is being cooled by an NZXT X62 Kraken. So we're water cooling our CPU with an AIO, so it should keep it nice and cool in game. As you can see, we're sitting at 35C right now, GPU sitting at around 62C, but that is just stock Founders Edition air cooling on that card. The CPU not overclocked whatsoever, so 4.3 gigs, and the GPU sitting at around 1875 megahertz, and that is just FE clocks from NVIDIA. So we'll take a look at FPS in game. As you can see, looking down on the entire map, around 90 FPS, and taking a look at our settings. Pretty much high everything, TSAA on, VSync and disabled. Our texture streaming budget very high for the 6 gigs of VRAM on our RTX 2060. The only thing that isn't high is our ambient occlusion quality, which is sitting at medium. So looking down on the map, as you can see, jumping between 80 and 90 FPS. But as we drop down towards the map, we get a nice spike in FPS. So yeah, as you can see now, going up into around 100 FPS range. And still up here, we still have a lot of map to render. Once we're actually down on the ground level in the game, we should be seeing higher FPS ranges, so around 130 to 140 FPS now, but spiking between 120 and 130 FPS. As you can also see, the FPS minimum is sitting at 8. That's just during load screens. FPS drops just like Fortnite. So don't look at that when you're looking at FPS quality during this. Mainly stick to the average or what you're seeing currently being shown. But again, CPU sitting around 45% utilization and still right around 40 to 45 degrees C. GPU sitting around 90 to 95% utilization. Temps there around 65 degrees C. And then VRAM usage. This one's a little bit disconcerting just because we're almost using all of the VRAM that the RTX 2060 has. So using around 5.5 gigabytes of VRAM. So the card comes with 6. It is GDDR6, so it does have higher bandwidth, but we are limited in just pure size, only at 6 gigs, whereas the 2070 and 2080 have a little bit more there for this game to be able to render everything that it needs to. But I still think we're fine in terms of the quality of gameplay. As you can see, still at around 100, between 100 and 120 FPS, I would say most of the time, sometimes getting spikes in the 140s. So if you drop some settings, it's definitely possible to play on a 144 hertz monitor at 1080p. In terms of like 1440 4K, you might be looking at having to drop a bunch of your settings and getting around 60 FPS, maybe a little bit less. But 1080p, plenty of performance with an RTX 2060 and an 8700K, no whatsoever. Air cooling on the card, and AIO for the CPU. But plenty of performance, as you can see, definitely enough for a 60 Hz 1080p monitor like I am playing on myself. But CPU really under control, so I definitely think there's room to overclock. I think temp-wise, even previous testing at 4.7 gigahertz with Asus multi-core enhancement enabled, sitting at around maybe max like 60 C on the CPU package, so there's definitely room to jump in temp, which means room to overclock and boost that core clock. So that was sitting at 4.7 gigahertz. Asus's AI tweaker predicts we can get 5.3 gigahertz on our chip. I don't think we're going to be able to get that high, maybe 5.1, 5.2, but we'll see on that. And then the graphics card is where I think we can see a bunch of benefit with overclocking. I think we can overclock the core over 2000 megahertz. And I also think we can get a lot more speed out of the VRAM, probably 1000 megahertz or so, as seen most of the time on some other channels with some other cards. And I think the performance should go up, maybe not super significantly, but we'll definitely see a pretty good rise in terms of FPS at 1080. So that's a little bit of an overview there. FPS still looking really good. I'm thinking in investing in a 144 hertz monitor, just because with this new system you have the ability to actually get that many frames. Especially not all the settings you need actually need to be set to high. Especially with Fortnite, in the last video, we easily are getting 144 hertz, so I don't think there's anything there. It's pretty hard to play a game, I will say this. It's pretty hard to play a game while I'm trying to also make a YouTube video off of the content and trying to go through FPS and things like that. But I'm doing it for you guys, so that's cool. Nice, teammates giving me a revive. So hopefully I can show you a little bit more in this game, give you a really good idea of what you can expect in game. But as you can see with like these quick turns and everything, even dying again, there's no real lag. It's super smooth in terms of the rendering and the quality of the gameplay, which is really nice to see from the setup. There's a decent chunk of change I put into the system, so I definitely want to see the results of that, and I think we're seeing that here with our super high FPS count.
Good looking out.
And it's money well spent in terms of gaming performance, I think.
Recharging shields.
Again, looking back on our old system with the GTX 1050 and the i7-3770, we were barely cracking 60 FPS, like barely cracking 60 FPS, and that was with super low settings. At these settings, and we wouldn't even be able to get to that 6 gigs of texture streaming, but we were getting like 20 to 30 FPS, and now we're hitting 130 to 140 FPS. So it's night and day difference between two systems. And that's mainly up to the RTX 2060. I think if you want to go 1440 or 4K, you're going to have to look, like I said before, at an RTX 2070 or 2080, just for the sheer fact that there's more RAM there. There's more VRAM with those cards, and they just have the extra cores in order to handle it. The RTX 2060 definitely wasn't advertised for 4K gaming, but there has been plenty of benchmarks done on some games that shows it can handle 4K, and it can definitely handle 1440, so I don't see issues with it handling 1440 with Apex Legends and Fortnite in specific. So yeah, so around these quick corners, it's super smooth, which is really nice to see. It just improves that game quality a ton. Gotta find a decent weapon.
Round 2, beginning ring countdown.
Let's go this way.
Attention, supply ship inbound.
Only 2 of us remain.
So it is really nice to see that reactivity of the system, just how quick it responds to input from the player. Getting up on this building, like the view distance is really, really good. There's a guy. Damn Nice. Oh man. But there you go. I hope that game gave you a really good idea of what kind of performance you can expect from a system with an i7-8700K and an RTX 2060, what kind of performance numbers you can be looking at. Like it's showing right now, average FPS around 120. And then during that whole thing, CPU really never got above 40, 45 degrees C, GPU around 65 C, but that is looking really, really good. So thanks for watching this video. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please subscribe and give a thumbs up to this video. Hopefully future videos, we'll take a look at some overclocking and some more performance benchmarking with some games with an overclock system.